This is the When Work Isn't Work podcast. This podcast exists to help people reignite the love of what they do in a post-pandemic world. The pandemic gave us a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reflect on what is truly important to us in work and in life. I'm your host, Sinead Connolly, co-founder and director of Lotus People, an award-winning Sydney-based recruitment agency. We hope you enjoy today's chat. Hi, I am joined today by Sean Anderson, CEO of Hoxo Media and Hoxo Academy. Sean is based in the UK and has built a business out of disrupting how recruiters do sales and marketing online. I've watched Sean's business soar over the last few years, and I absolutely love what Hoxo are all about. Sean is also the host of the highly successful RAG podcast for recruiters and has interviewed some of the most incredible minds in the UK and Australia. So I'm really excited to delve into this chat today, and welcome to Sean.
Thank you. Thanks, Sinead. Cheers for having me.
Very happy to have you. Thank you for joining us. To kick us off, Sean, can you give us a bit of an overview of your career, your role, but as it is today, not necessarily the history, but what your role is, where you're at now, what your sort of day-to-day, week-to-week looks like in its current form?
Yeah, sure. So as you said, I'm Sean, the founder and CEO of Hoxo. We have two sides to the business that kind of have evolved over the last 5 years since we started. So we have an agency business, which is known as Hoxo Media. And then we have what we call the Academy, which is a training business where I personally coach, I think it's just under 4,000 recruiters at the moment around the world on how to brand themselves better on LinkedIn. So as the CEO, it's a funny one because my business partner is technically the COO. We're kind of like co-CEOs now, really. He is like the figurehead and face and leader of that business, and I'm the leader of this business, but we co-manage it. So we got about just under I think we got 38 people in South Africa and the UK. So we've got two kind of hubs of people. We have got a couple in Portugal as well, and clients all over the world. Like, you guys in Australia, we got quite a big footprint in Australia. I think the podcast really seemed to land there. And then from that, we built a decent audience. My role now, so I'm still very much involved in kind of every area, but I'd say sales and marketing will always be my strength. So like my brand is still massively contributing to the revenue and the business that we generate. Yeah. I'm also leading the delivery of our program in the academy. I used to be like the account director for a lot of the work in the agency as well. I honestly don't have anything to do with that business. Like I've been made redundant and kicked out.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that whose decision was that?
You know what? Amma did say get out of the way. Not because it wasn't because I was doing anything wrong, but I wasn't able to do both well. So he's like, the academy's not going to fulfill its potential if you're sat in here doing 50-50. And then operationally, like I'm quite involved in the kind of customer success, account management and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, marketing, sales, delivery, and then account management. I'm kind of involved. I've got people that lead each area. I'm involved in both of them. Yeah. So say that again, sorry.
I was going to say, naturally as CEO, right? You have to have your eyes across everything. You have to be across everything, but your role will change and have different versions over time.
Yeah. I mean, I think the hardest thing for me has always been to let go of things. Like, I can let go, but still want to be involved in too much. So I think I'm getting better as I get more experienced in being more, being able to delegate and do it properly. But no, I'll be honest with you, and I'm not just saying this, but I'm at a point in my life and my career right now where I don't think I've ever been happier in terms of where it's all at. There's been so much up and down, and but right now, if I had to say if I had to measure it against the past, I'm in the best place I've been. So I think you picked a good time for me to do
this weekend, didn't you?
I got engaged. I got engaged on Saturday, so I've got two soon-to-be stepkids. I've got 2 dogs, mine and my partner's dog that now live together. They're both in the room, so if you hear anything, this is tradition. This is real remote work. So we're getting married, buying a house, selling a house. If you could imagine anything, I'm trying for a baby. If you imagine anything that you could do as a family, like we're trying to do it at once, plus run a business. So I've got a coach I speak to, a guy called Dr. Arya Campbell Dinesh. He's unbelievable. And he said, what I love about you, Sean, is you're trying to squeeze every bit of juice out of life. And I was like,
I love that.
Good way to put it.
It is. And it resonates so much, and I'm sure it will resonate with so many people, because when you are that kind of drive or personality, and it's exactly what you were saying before, it's like trying to take on everything and trying to do everything. And I think you get rewarded for living bravely and for taking on things. And you're right, there is ups and downs. Like there's absolutely like the roller coaster of whether you own a business, whether you've taken on a career, no matter what industry it's in. It's like there is going to be sacrifice for that level of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And it's not always easy.
No.
And you do push yourself to the brink of kind of going, oh, I missed my comfort zone. Like, can I just maybe go back in there? Can I just hibernate? Maybe get a blanket, turn off the lights, and just leave me there for a while. But you don't necessarily then get the reward and get all of the good. And as you said, the juice that gets squeezed out of it when you do take those really brave kind of positive steps of just like living life. So delighted to hear it's all paying off.
Thank you.
With regards to your journey to get here, because I know that you've been a recruiter. I know that you started a marketing agency with no experience in marketing. Talk us through the journey to getting to the point where you did start a business in a space that you didn't necessarily have a huge amount of experience in.
No, and I think that's kind of a bit of the story of my life, is just, I think I must love the fear of the unknown. I must do, because I keep making decisions that you wouldn't make. So like, for example, I did a degree, I went to do an architecture degree, which I just, within a week, I knew I was in the wrong place. Then I blagged myself onto the P department program, became a trained to be a P teacher. Actually got a job in sales when I graduated. But that was one of them knocking on doors jobs, the commission only jobs in Yorkshire, which was a shocking 6 months. I did really well, but hated it. And then I went into teaching, got paid to train and do my final year through a school. And then I became a P teacher. I did a couple of years of that. And then I went traveling in 2010. So end of October 2010. So it's a while ago. But now I went off to Australia via Asia, did the classic Southeast Asia route. Got to Australia, got to Melbourne with the intention of like traveling the East Coast and doing the whole backpacker thing. But I just couldn't handle any more living out of a bag. And when you've done Asia as hard as we did it, it was like, just find a job. So in Australia, I was doing about 4 different jobs. I had a job ripping up carpets at Avalon Airport in Melbourne. I was working at the Amy Park Stadium, pouring coffees. I was doing some construction work. And then my mate got a job in recruitment at Randstad. And I knew my teaching qualification wasn't valid. Like, that was the thing. I would have had to pay $10,000 to get it converted and do a lot of training. And I was like, I just, at that age anyway, I was 23 at the time, I think, just turning 24. I was like, I don't think I want to do something else with my life. And then when he got into recruitment and he got a visa for 4 years to live in Australia and commission opportunities, I was like, yeah. And we'd watched, I don't know if you've ever seen Entourage, but we were like, me and my mates obsessed with Entourage. It was like the show we watched. We kind of lived it in Australia in our own heads. We didn't, but we thought we did.
I was going to say, I'm waiting to hear the connection between recruitment and Entourage.
Well, Ari Gold, right? So Ari Gold was my favorite character as an agent. And I was like, so it's basically, you're like an agent. Like, kind of. I mean, it wasn't like that in Melbourne, but wearing a suit, going into a skyscraper and, selling people for a living. I was like, oh, I'll just be Ari Gold. And
I've never seen myself as Ari Gold before, but I'm going to start owning that.
Probably more of an Ari than me, because I don't even do it anymore. But yeah, so I did all right. I did really well at Randstad, but I was in a newly created team which basically was just a lot of British people on it with a no commission structure, running at the Victorian government pretty hard. And after 18 months, I realized I wasn't happy enough to stay in Melbourne. I was either going to go to Sydney or go home. And I decided to go back to the UK, and I really fancied London. I'd never really been. I'd only been like once in my life. So I went to London with my 2 mates, and then I joined a small firm called Venquis, who were a startup. They were about a year old at the time. There was about 6-7 people doing a similar market. So I recruited in Melbourne in the Victorian government. So it's basically walking around the CBD, meeting people for coffees. That was it. And doing business that way. And then when I got to London, I met all these different agencies that were very like phone based into Europe and stuff. And then there was this one agency that was sat in the city going, we meet everyone for coffees. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And it was literally the best company I could have joined. It was perfect for me. And I did really well. I was like their top performing recruiter. I was the biggest contract biller. I built the biggest team, the first £1 million team. And I did just under 5 years. I was leading like half the business operations, and I decided I wanted to start my own business. Well, me and my business partner, Amma, he joined the agency in 2014, I believe.
Okay, you work together.
Yeah, so he was his background's the same, teaching, Australia, everything. We lived together, but he got into education recruitment because that's what he thought would make more sense, right? And I probably thought the same, but I just got offered a job in IT. But then when we were looking at planning an agency, it was like, well, we can't do education and technology. That just doesn't work. So I was like, why don't you come in with me, learn what I do, open a new division. So I was doing insurance tech and he was doing retail. And he did really well. He was, created a great team. So we planned for 2 years, me, him, and there was another guy, the perm biller in my team. We used to meet up like every couple of weeks, think about our agency, planning names and Hoxo we came up with, and 2 years. So we were going to start a recruitment firm that did insurance and retail transformation, IT and business change, called Hoxo. We had bullhorn ready, everything, right?
So far down the line.
Yeah, we were. So when I quit my job on the 30th of January or whatever, end of January 2017, that was still the plan. But in the background, I'd been buying media program training for about a year. So I basically realized that what I loved and what I didn't love about recruitment, right? And I was really into things like I'd got into podcasts in 2015, and I was obsessed with them. I used to listen to them every way on the way to work, and this was self-improvement stuff as well as like comedy and football. But I really got into this self-improvement. I'd never really read books. I'm not particularly a strong reader. I didn't really enjoy it that much. But listening, I'm pretty good at auditory learner. So I'm like, well, I want a podcast. But I didn't know. I thought you had to be paid to do it. I thought it was like something you couldn't just create one in I thought it was like a radio show. So I was like, well, that'd be good. And then I was like, right, we're going to start a recruitment business. We're not allowed to talk to anyone we know. But I had this brainwave. I thought, I literally didn't sleep one night. I was like, what if I created like a podcast for the industry, and what if for insurance, and what if I created content like people do on Instagram and YouTube, and I put it on LinkedIn? Nothing in my contract says I can't do that. So I thought I had about 2,000 insurance connections, but really I just played musical chairs with them all anyway. So that was enough to make $1 million a year. So I was like, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to not ring anyone I know, but I'm going to talk to them. And literally my business partner was like, great, not bothered, like totally like ignored it and just was like, crack on. Yeah. But in the background, I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. So I started buying courses, like training programs, online things. And I learned loads in that year, like about social media marketing and stuff. And then when it got to the end of the year, we were quitting our jobs. The guy who was joining us pulled out. So he was like, I can't do it, guys. It's too... It turned out he actually came out as being gay a few months later, and he couldn't come out with his sexuality and start a company at the same time. I had him on my show the other week.
I was going to say, he was on your show recently.
Yeah,
I listened to it.
I love him. But when he pulled out, me and Amma were like, right, that's cool. But then I was like, look, mate, I've got an idea here. And he's like, what? And he didn't even know, but I'd been phoning marketing agencies to find someone to help me with this vision I had. And I couldn't find anyone. I was like, but I found a friend who was in marketing that I trusted. And I was like, I've got this idea. I want to do this. I've told you about it. He's like, that's cool. I was like, what if we created a second brand called Hoxo Media? And everything I want to do for me, we sold to non-competing agencies. So we had like a side revenue as well as... So the guy that I was like thinking of doing it for me, the marketing guy, I was like, I'll just sell him out to other people because there's so many recruiters like us. And he was like, great. Like we just read a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And we're like, that's an asset. That's an asset, not a liability. Let's go for it. So that was the initial plan. And then when I got my mate in from school to be the partner, I said, look, we've got no money to give you. So we'll give you 33% of the media company. In our non-compete month where in our gardening leave month, when I couldn't do anything, I just started phoning other recruitment companies and talking about what I had, this vision. People I knew and networked through friends. I ended up selling 5 contracts worth £2,000 a month. So I was like,
did you have a product?
No, I had an idea. And I was like, fuck, we're on like 10 grand monthly revenue before we've even started without even a proper service. But I believed it. So long story short, I then convinced Amma to pause the recruitment company for 6 months. Let's burn the covenant away doing this. And if it doesn't work, so I was like, why are we going to try and do 2? Let's just put our eggs into this basket for a bit. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we'll just go back. And then we never went back. So
That's jumping off the ledge story. That's just like, we have an idea, we have no idea if this is going to work, let's just do it. You have to be young, I think, to do that kind of shit.
At the time, I had a girlfriend. I was about to get engaged with my ex. I had a house I'd bought, and that was it. I had no other. I had enough money in the bank. I wasn't like stressed. Looking back, though, I wouldn't change it, but I definitely didn't do any due diligence on the guy that I brought in. My friend from school that I brought in to be the marketing guy, because it turned out he wasn't fit for purpose. We had to buy him out. It was a messy experience. But yeah, I don't know that. I'm really grateful Emma let me go with it, because I mean, if it was the other way around, I probably would have been like, mate, you're literally a lunatic. Like,
absolutely
no. But
not.
he kind of, and he said he's always kind of believed in my vision. Like, that's kind of the skill I've got. He's more of he gets my vision delivered, and I'm good at seeing sometimes what might happen. And
both very useful skills. It's the same as when I set up Lotus at 27. Like, I didn't have a mortgage, I didn't have any responsibilities. Like, it was very much just a naivety. And obviously we did a research, but like, we had the energy and the passion and the enthusiasm and there wasn't an option of it not working. It was like, we are going to do this. We are the best people to do this. The care and passion is there. It's going to work, and not having it not work is not an alternative.
Yeah.
Albeit we had already done that in our career, whereas you obviously hadn't.
Yeah. And I think, you know what? I think because I've already done what you'd done in my career, that was the reason I didn't want to do it. It's a weird one. I was like, in my current career, I could see all the problems. Like, I knew I'm going to have those chats about PSLs and about terms. And I kind of, I don't know, the potential issues that would arise, I could already see. Whereas in this one, I couldn't see any.
Yeah.
I didn't know. And I was like, that one, I don't think I'd have tried to scale a recruitment firm. I don't think I'd have just been really lean and tried to make as much cash and put it into properties. That was kind of the vision. Whereas with this one, I suddenly went, well, there's a global recruitment industry here that there's no competition. Like, in there, I already knew my competitors. There was already 50 of them, and I was just going to add to it. Whereas in this world, I couldn't find anyone. So it was like, it was a different kind of excitement and vision. But when you don't know what you're doing, it's ludicrous, really.
And it almost, as you say, it almost fuels you more, because you don't know what's ahead and you can't foresee the potential pitfalls and downfalls. That was 2017, is that right?
Yeah, that was March 2017.
Then you have a few years, and then the pandemic hits, the world goes entirely online. The LinkedIn stats have kind of soared.
Well, it's funny, because I'd been saying it for 3 years, and I think for the first year, honestly, everyone wanted to meet me, but the amount of people who were like, I'm not sure about this. Like, and I wouldn't say my product was necessarily like on point. I didn't really have it nailed down. It kind of kept changing. You know, the general consensus was always branding on LinkedIn for recruiters, right? That was kind of social media was what we called it, but we quickly realized Facebook and Instagram and things we weren't going to invest in. And I was building my own brand on LinkedIn all the time. I was producing content daily, and all of the leads were coming from it. So because I was able to do that, I had that belief that it is possible. But yeah, I'd say for first year was just purely like, go out there and try and see what you can do. Second year was education, I'd say. We were constantly educating the market. We launched the podcast, but people were still very reluctant to like take a plunge on things. Like, we obviously made money, and we didn't make much profit for 2 years at all. We built a bit of a team. We got like to 10 headcount, 12 headcount, a lot of contractors and stuff, but we weren't making much money. And then in 2019, when we bought one of our business partners out, the business then took off into a better direction. It felt like the market was turning. Pandemic for us was unbelievable. Like, it fast forwarded all the conversations probably about 5 years, because obviously, horrific what happened on a global health scale, and I wouldn't, wish that on anyone. But what the pandemic made us do was go, well, what we've been saying is going to happen. Like, you can't just go and meet your clients anymore. You need to be online. You need to have a presence. And people were listening. And I remember running a free personal brand webinar, and I think I got 900 attendees in like, I was like, fucking hell, people need this. Yeah, people need this help. And that's when, I'll be honest, I phoned up a few advisors, and I said to them, what do you think I should do? And they were like, well, if it's anything like the previous recessions, you're gonna really be hit here, because recruitment companies are going to switch marketing off. That's the first thing that'll go. So I was like, fuck. We'd had our best month ever in February. We had like 15 staff in an office in East London. You know, everything was set. And we just had a record month in the February. It was our 3-year anniversary. We took everyone out for this party on the 4th of March. And then a week later, we're in lockdown. And I'm like, so we let 2 people go that were in probation. And unfortunately, we didn't think they'd make it at that point anyway. So we were like, unfortunately, we're going to have to let you go. But everyone else worked through it, including us. And then I decided, if the agency's going to dip, because even at that point, I wasn't the product. I was the face, but I did a bit of account management, but I didn't really get involved. I was like, I need to do something that I genuinely, if worst case scenario, it's just me and Amma left, we can do it ourselves. And that's when I did that free webinar and I got 900 people, I was like, right, I'm going to build a training program for LinkedIn. And that's what I did. In April 2020, I sat in my little flat, built it all in my bedroom. And then just a MVP, it was crap, really. The technology looked awful. But the content was good. I threw way too much in it. It was like this overcomplicated course. But 165 recruitment owners paid me to join the program in the next 3 months. And that was an insane profit. And it kind of then sparked a new business product. And now we have, 2 entities, and that's where I sit. And yeah, without that time, that pivot, that idea, I don't know where we'd probably still be going, but we wouldn't be the same business.
It's incredible. And I think it's a testament to the fact that obviously you guys were in a position where you were seeing this a few years ahead. And as you said, we've all seen this acceleration of work over the last 5 years where the digital transformation, the flexibility, like how we all approach work, like it has completely changed. Like it went overnight rather than what might happen in the next decade. So obviously that moving forward, it supports you. But I think it really resonated what you said about April 2020, just getting in a room and creating something. And we did a really similar thing. We're business support and HR. Our revenue fell off a cliff overnight. We did have to make a few people redundant. We stood down some people. We went down to kind of shorter working weeks and salary cuts, etc. And it was all horrendous. Like it was a sea of horrendousness and uncertainty, and exactly what you said. What if there's only a few of us left in a room after this? But at the same time, we turned that off really quickly and we went into creating mode, and we did so many webinars. We did one-day summits, all virtually. We put our brand online. We really lent into what are our values, where can we add value, and where can we, and it was all very authentic. It was, and I'm sure it's the exact same with all of the stuff you put online. It has to be authentic. It can't be contrived. It can't be something that feels calculated as part of a broader strategy. It needs to be genuine and aligned with how you actually operate. And that's what it felt like for us. And it's made the most insane difference. We obviously did Academy through you guys, and we've taken on all the learnings from Hoxo, but it is something that we have seen a massive upswing for as well. And the fact that the market's changed so much, it's completely mad.
Well, even before I did the Academy, I'm sat there at the end of March. I'm like, well, what have I got? I've got this podcast that I used to record in a studio in London. It was really high production, nice video, cameras. People used to come and meet me. I loved it. I did it every week, once a week. And I was getting about 5,000 plays a month at that point. And I was like, I can't go in the office. I was with my ex in this little shitty, she had this like, I created this room for her to get ready, like a walk-in room, wardrobe room. So the first episode in the lockdown, I'm doing it with her clothes all around my head. And I didn't even have a microphone. I had no microphone. So I'm using like an old headset. It was shocking. But I said, I'm going to go daily with this. I said, I'm going to create a daily bulletin. I called it the RAG Report. It was 30 minutes. And it was basically, let me try and interview someone around the world in this industry and find out how they're getting on. Because I was like, I've got influence and I can bring a positive spin daily. And that I went from 5 to 13,000 plays or individual unique listeners in about 6 weeks. And genuinely, like, people were like, Sean, every day I walk the dog, I go for my run, I'm listening and you're helping. And that kind of sparked, how quickly I could reach people. I was like, well, the Academy might be a way of reaching more people, because at the minute I'm just working with like 30 company brands. Whereas, if I could coach hundreds, thousands of people, I'm impacting more people. And that's always been my goal, is to positively impact the industry and try and help people, try and shape what they're doing. If I don't believe in what I'm doing, I won't do it. Like there's literally no, I won't just try and make money out of people. I have to be based on belief and positively personal. Like you said, authentic. I think for me, it's positively personal is the words that always go through my head. It's like, I do share personal things, whether it be what I think about the industry or what I think about my life, but I always try and have a positive spin on it. Like I never try and promote negativity. I just don't see the point. It's not who I am in real life. I'm not going to be that online. And I think at that time, people really needed that. They really needed the positively personal spin on things. And so every day I was bringing it to them, and yeah, the impact on our brand was massive, and it just snowballed from there.
It's amazing. It's good to know that you're not a troll and that you are positive impact, because the amount of trolls that we see online, it's completely mental. Have you found that with the pandemic and the nature of the conversations you're having with business owners is obviously around embracing the future of networking, the future of how we all work? Have you found that there are traditionalists who are very reluctant to, like, do they still exist? Or
yeah, of course, yeah.
This
loads. There's loads. I mean, I know businesses that forced their teams to work in an office through the pandemic, and they didn't tell anyone, and they shut the windows. Like there's been loads of brands that do things like that, and there's others that really embraced it for a period, and then as soon as they could, they just went back to their old way of working. But I'd say 80% have gone and changed dramatically. There's still people that will. The funny thing is, I think when it comes to online things, people go, I don't like that from someone else, so I won't do it. And I'm a bit like, be you though. Like, just because you don't like how they've positioned themselves doesn't mean you can't position yourself in a way that works for you. It's like saying, like, I don't know, I don't like that clothes, so I won't wear any clothes. It's like, well, wear something you like. Do you know what I mean? I don't like that coat, so I'll never wear a coat in my life. It's like, just put a coat on you want to wear. Like, and I think there's a lot of people who are like, oh, this whole social way, I just don't like it. Or working from home, I don't like it. Well, it doesn't mean your team won't like it. Like, just because you don't like it. So I think it's having this self-awareness that you're not everyone on LinkedIn, or you're not everyone in your company. Like, people are different. And once I think you can build that, you might have a chance in the future, because just trying to create a team of robots or working the way you want to work is very tricky, I think. But there are, look, I'm really proud of the industry, the recruitment sector, how it's evolved. But there will always be naysayers, and there'll always be people that want to work like it's 1999, and let them do it.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you around the evolution of the industry. An industry that I started in 12 years ago is entirely different. We literally had to wear certain blouses that only had a certain width of like you could only have a certain amount of shoulder exposed. You could only wear, this is in Sydney, you could only wear stockings if you wore a skirt. Like crazy secretarial, old school, like this is how it is. Nonsense, absolute nonsense. Working kind of 7:30 till 6 on kind of rostered shifts, and everyone had to be there, and you couldn't leave a minute earlier. Yeah. Look at it now. Look at how the forward-thinking business owners run their business. Look at how I worked in Bali last month for 2 weeks, and I literally worked every day. I didn't even take annual leave, because I was like, I don't really have much leave. I'm doing other trips. I'm just going to go and work in Bali for 2 weeks. And I soaked up the sun every day. I had to keep dipping myself in the pool because it was so effing hot. But it's like I know you spend time obviously working overseas in Ibiza as well. It's such an incredible thing. You're not in recruitment, obviously, but just how we're all working, it's incredible. But
I wouldn't say mine is very different. I mean, the thing about recruitment and marketing is you don't it's not physical, is it? You're not selling a product that's stock. You're creating things. Like, you're creating relationships and contacts. We're creating content, but I'm in sales most of the time, so it's not much different. No, it's a funny one. I have this chat all the time that I think there's different ways to create and run a successful recruitment company. And I think if you're trying to really have heavily scale through a graduate model, you do need to have some form of office space that is more organized and more manned and more support. But I think the hardest are the businesses that are catering for both of those. That's really difficult when you've got 35-year-olds who want to be at home with their kids 3 days a week, but you've also got 22-year-olds that are coming in to learn. How do you keep them both happy? I think, honestly, really difficult. We made the decision at Hoxo. So 6 months to a year before the pandemic, we brought video in as our main source of communication for clients anyway. So we were up until end of 2019, I was on tubes and trains constantly, just running around London and even up to Bristol and Manchester. And it was pointless, right? And then once we started using Zoom, we were like, well, that's going to be the way we communicate as a primary. Sometimes we'll go and meet people. And at that point, it was funny because clients were like, what? Like, no. And I was like, well, look, it's either that or we don't speak kind of thing. I'm not coming. And they were like, all right. And we saw the change up to the pandemic where people started to really embrace it. But what that meant was when we went remote, it didn't really impact us at all. Like, and the team were in the office, but we were very flexible about what time they were in anyway. And so when we moved, whereas I know clients like 300 recruitment consultants who didn't even have laptops, and they're like, we've got to order 300 laptops and figure out how to get all of our bullhorns on it and all that. I'm like, wow. So some were prepared a lot more than others. We were all, and then we made the decision that we didn't want an office. So we got burgled in the first lockdown, where they stole we lost £18,000 of camera equipment and all sorts. So we then gave notice on the office. We had to pay for 6 months. We didn't use it. And then November 2020, we then went office fully remote first. And we now have global WeWork licenses for people if they use them. And I don't even live in a city where you can have a WeWork. So I go to this, I've just got my own little space in a fake WeWork. Probably shouldn't call it that, but anyway.
Won't give away
we meet up. I think the London lot meet once a week, every other week. The South African lot meet up quite regularly. And we're all meeting up in Sheffield, where I live, next week for our half year. We're going out to the Peak District and doing this walk and all things. So I'm really happy with how the business has evolved, and we've embraced it. And now we've lost a couple of people that have recently said they want to go back to an office.
Yeah.
But we've had to stand firm. That's not we're not going to then listen and go, oh, maybe we should have an office. Like, we've had to go, no, this is the DNA of our company and this is what we want to create. But we offer that you can go to a WeWork, or if you really need to go and work somewhere, we'll provide that for you. And it's, I mean, I couldn't imagine it any other way now.
No, it's amazing, and I'm loving seeing naturally in what we do. We get a bird's eye view into so many businesses, and there's not a one size fits all. There's not a situation where everyone's going to be happy and you're going to keep everyone, in order. But I'm all for it in comparison to what it used to be, for sure. I've heard you speak about before the importance of the compound effect, consistency. You would attribute your success to the fact that you are super consistent. It's funny because I believe in that theoretically, but I'm so erratic in how I work. I swear I almost think I'm like just roller coastering along my life over the course of a few months. I really struggle I do everything. I never drop balls. I definitely don't let things fall. I will always execute, but I also it really depends on my energy levels. Is that still something that you would attribute your success to? And if so, please teach me how to be more consistent.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, but kind of how you've described your way you work, I'm not that dissimilar, right? But you're consistently doing that. Yeah. So consistency doesn't mean like you wake up at 7 and you do everything the same. It means you will operate in a similar fashion consistently. Yeah. So I've learned through my coach, right, that I am crap unless I'm really close to a deadline. Like I'm just shit. If you give me 2 weeks to do something, I'll do it on the last day. Like I always have been, I always will be. That's just who I am. Now, I used to beat myself up about it. Sorry, Siri just thought he'd get involved in the chat. But I used to really beat myself up about it and be like, oh, fuck, I've done that again. I've let that slip. And then my coach is like, Sean, this is like your superpower, right? You should be proud of the fact that you. So now I literally do have like all my stuff on like a Trello board that I'm doing. And I will literally go, what are the 3 things I need to do? And everything else can just bugger off. And I'll have a deadline on everything. And, I'll know when it's the time. I know when it needs to be done, and I'll never miss it. I never miss a deadline. Like I'll never ever be late for something, or I never let someone down. But it's being comfortable with how I work. I think I'm getting there. And how you work, it's worked for you so far. You're clearly successful. So you're not, I think in terms of what I have learned though is the small, often things do make a huge difference. So, look at different areas of my life. So fitness-wise, this year I've ran every day pretty much. I've ran 176 days yesterday. So it's 11 days of not running in 2020, which is insane for me. I never ran more than 50 times a year, I don't think. But I realized actually if I go slow, I don't go that far, but I just go out and chip away every day. The compound effect of that will have an impact on my mental health, my physical health. And it has. It's been like a revelation. I absolutely love it. And now it's become a part of my day. When it comes to content, social media, like I just post 5 days a week. Like I don't let that down. Like I say to myself, I have to do it. Like it's non-negotiable. And then when it comes to things like, seeing my partner and the kids, I've already planned out my week to where I'm going to be. So it's not negotiable. Like I'm going to be there. So there's certain things in my life that I'll say I have to consistently put into them, or so they're not going to consistently daily or weekly or monthly. But I work out what's the gap that what's the kind of frequency I need for it to be successful. And then I have to think ahead. And so I'm always looking a week ahead. I never look much further than a week. And that tends to work for me. I'm not the best at anything. I'm honestly not the best at sales or marketing or content or fitness, but I am I've learned to be able to spin a lot of plates ongoing. And I think if you can keep things moving and just try and be better than you were last month in each area, you find that the results come.
Yes, 100%. And what you're saying there about the building in exercise and that routine, I'm thinking, I do that. I wake up every morning and I do exercise every morning and I've got the routine around that. And then you're like, and I just post every day. And I'm like, no, that's definitely not me. But the deadline, like I am the exact same. And I know many people who are similar. And I think even my whole background is a temp recruiter. And I know that for people in my team who are temp recruiters who have progressed into senior roles, it's like the need to have an immediate deadline. Like even the process of perm recruitment stresses me out. And I obviously have perm recruiters within my business and support them and all the rest of it. But it's like, I can't get my head around just stuff that takes that long. Like the amount of stuff that I've had due over the last few weeks for end of financial year over here. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I have so much to do. I need to get it done. I'm like, just give me 2 hours before. Give me 2 hours before I smash it out.
Yeah, it's how I studied. It's how I did my degree. It's how I did my schoolwork. Like, it's just who I am. Like, but it's learning. It's learning not to beat yourself up along the way. Because I've always been like, oh, you're leaving it again. Whereas now I'm a bit like, it's in the diary. I know I'm doing it then. Fuck off. Forget about it.
That's such a good point, because you spend your whole time then in your brain criticizing yourself for how you're getting it done. At the end of the day, it's like, if you reflect, you always get it done. The quality is there. Shit always happens. Yeah. But the energy wasted in the lead up with the worrying and the stress. But what I do wonder sometimes with that mentality, and I've read about this recently, I can't remember what book it was, but I worry that there's a stress response addiction in that. It's like calm, quick, need to move, need to get things done quickly, hysteria. And it's like, that's what charges me. And then I'm so aware of like my nervous system and my energy levels, and my life constantly is just sussing out my energy distribution. I absolutely full throttle it. Then I'm exhausted. And that's what my flows are. Like, that's what it comes down to. It's like just energy expenditure and then trying to fill the cup back up again. Do you find that with what you're doing? I mean, I genuinely think the key to success is sussing out where your energy is going. How have you gone with the whole work-life balance, energy?
Again, I think right now probably is the best it's ever been. Like, I think I'm doing a lot, genuinely doing a lot in terms of every week recording a podcast. We do tasters. I do academy sessions. I do, I'm selling, I'm coming up with marketing campaigns, I'm dealing with teams and supporting them. There's a lot of things going on. But yeah, I feel like I kind of, my normal day now is I wake up I get up about 6:30, and I have usually till 7:30. It's my time. So I'll either go to the gym, go for a run, try and do both, whatever. Today I just took the dogs for a walk because I'm going out. I'm going to do my run at lunch. And then it's 7:30 till 8:15. Lauren and the kids are getting ready, so I'll always spend that with them and have a bit of breakfast and just, we have a laugh. And then 8:15 till 8:30 or 9, depending on the day, is where I'll sit down. I'll think about content, 2010-5, like engage with people, all that kind of stuff. And then pretty much 9 till 12, I'm on. I'm in meetings for 3 hours straight, always. Straight after this, I've got meetings till 12. Like, it will be relentless every day. And I'm comfortable with that. And then at lunch, 12 till 2, I'm off. So I've put myself 2 hours. No one can book in my diary from 12 till 2. And even if I use it for work, it's my choice. And until I did that, I used to feel like my diary controlled me. But now I'm like, no, 2 hours every day, 12 till 2, you can bugger off. Most days I go for a walk, I go to the gym, I'll do stuff, I'll cook. I started cooking at lunch, which I never used to do because I was always in an office. But now I'll make something like like I'll make a nice omelette with salad, or make some chicken, or I'll cook something. I find cooking definitely de-stresses me and allows me. I put the radio on and the dogs are running around. I just enjoy it. And then 2 till 6, I'm back. So I kind of have these 2 windows of intensity where I'm fucking head down. But then I'm pretty much done around 6. I don't do much after anymore. I'll check my phone and reply to messages, but I don't log back on like I used to always log back on late, but I don't really do that anymore. And Mondays and Fridays as well, I kind of don't have that same intensity as much because I try and have 2 internal focus days and then 3 external days. So my podcasts, my academies, everything's Tuesday to Thursday. Whereas Monday, Friday, I try and have more meetings with the team. I will do client calls and things, but if I was going to have time off, I'll choose a Monday or a Friday because it doesn't affect. And then I'll have a week off when I need it. But I've given myself the flexibility that if I don't want to work too hard on a Monday or Friday, I don't need to. But I will work from, early and sometimes Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I will work till 8, 9 o'clock if I need. But I've given myself those 3 days that I just. And Lauren knows about it, and I feel like that balance 3 and 4, like 4 days are quite down and 3 are quite intense, and I'm like that I can keep that going.
It's a good way of doing it. It is,
I really like what I'm doing.
I need to do a similar thing, like build structure around that. My issue is that I do it and then it slides because I am reactive and I don't have enough boundaries in place. But that's it's way of doing it.
Have a recurring meeting in your diary, a couple of hours. I mean, that has really helped. And every now and again, like I know this Thursday, I've got something that goes over my lunch and it will happen. But 80% of the time, it's always the 80-20, right? 80% of the time, I stick to it. And it means I've got time for exercise. I've got time for good food. I've got time for the dogs. I've got time for the family. I've got time for work. So at the moment, like when you're buying a house and selling a house, the amount of paperwork from solicitors is fucking nuts. So that I'm struggling with. I'm getting that done. I've then got obviously getting the ring and planning the whole engagement. That was big. I've got my best mate's business partner stag do. That is in the back of my head because I've done nothing on it. I need to get that sorted out. I'm the best man. So I've got so many other projects, but I think, I think it's just about taking a breath, thinking about what you can do each day, and knowing I kind of know my week ahead roughly what it's going to be like. And one thing I would advise is saying no to things. Like I've got better at that. I used to say yes to everything. Yeah, like anyone wanted to speak to me, and I love to give people time and I love to help people. But like yesterday, this guy sent me a message on LinkedIn, and I was like, okay, and he's like, can we talk? I said no. I was like, I can't see a gap, and just send me a voice note if I like the sound of it. But I used to just give everyone my time constantly, and I guess when you're in an early stage of a business, you probably need to. But even things like this, I wanted to do it, but I was invited to an event the other week, and I was like, there's absolutely no relevance to my job on that event. It's a flattering thing to be invited, but I was like, no, like it's a whole day out in fucking London. I was like, I'm not doing it. Like, nah. So it's trying to go, what do I need to do? What don't I need to do? And constantly assess it. And I think it's about being aware.
Absolutely. And putting boundaries around it and being mindful. I think we can all be so mindless in how we work. If we don't put structure in place, it will just fall to shit and fall down around us. So it's worth paying a bit more attention to. Your current season of the podcast, or one of your recent seasons, is all about kind of, I guess, the holistic view of being a business leader and work-life balance. Is there anything from the conversations you've been having with people about balance and stress, and is there anything that you've learned that you've been like, wow, this is really something to hold on to?
One thing I've learned is that most people, even the most successful business owners, have zero structure around communication in their personal life, right? It's funny because when it comes to engaging with our teams and our board members and fucking everything business-wise, we have structure, we have meetings, we know the dates, we take minutes, we think about the actions. And obviously, I've been through a really, I got married in 2019, I split up within a year, and I divorced within 18 months. Painful, right? And the whole process was fucking horrible. And that's what led me to think, because my mental health was in the pandemic. When I was building that academy in this flat, it was falling apart. It already gone by that point, but I was worrying, doing a bit of counseling and deciding whether or not I was going to, because I never wanted to get divorced, even though I knew it wasn't right. I was like, that's something I didn't want to do. But it led me on a journey to look at myself and think, what did I do wrong? Like she has her part to play, but I have my part to play. And one of the major things I look back on is that there was no communication between us. There was no actual. Sorry, the dog, get out of the way. There was no actual like plan around talking. It was kind of like problems would just get swept and things would just drag. And I was like, I would never let that happen in my business. Like, you know, if there's an issue, we have a meeting every Monday. It's 90 minutes. And we talk about we actually have an agenda, which is issues. Everyone has to say stuff that they're pissed off about, or there's a problem. And we have to break it down. And we call this IDS, identify, discuss, and solve. And I'm like, well, my ex, I tried to bring that in. I was like, could we have a meeting like this? And I actually showed her the agenda. And she was like, nah, that's too formal, too not for me, that. And I was like, straight away, I was like, we're not compatible because I want to do these things and she doesn't want to do these things. With my current partner, I don't necessarily have these agenda meetings, but we do talk and we share and you know, I'd say we've got really strong communication and I'm always trying to develop it. When I speak, but to go back to the original question, some of the most successful founders I've spoke to, whenever I ask them, like, how do you communicate in your personal life with your wife, your husband, your kids? You'd be surprised how little they literally are like, there's fucking no thought to it at all.
Amazing.
You wonder why so many entrepreneurs end up single and end up broken families. And, you know, it's because they're mentally not putting the same level of effort into their relationship. And you can take so much from a successful business into your personal life. You can. Like, there's a reason why, you know, you and a business partner will survive 25 years. It's because you fucking communicate. It's because you're open. It's because you listen. Because you're aware of yourself and you compromise. There's all things that work in relationships. So that one has been like incredibly aware, incredible learning that it wasn't just me. And then the other thing I'd say is, I think that most people that are successful, you know, it's funny when you look at people who, when I talk to recruiters who deal with senior levels of the market, they always worry about what they can say to these people. They're always like, can I really say that I'm an exec search consultant? Like, you know, I need to be super professional with these guys. It's like, it's absolute bullshit. Like, just because someone's a CEO doesn't mean they live in acronym language and they're boring and they don't like humor. And what I've learned is the more senior you get, the more charismatic people are, the more humorous they are, the more they actually do want to talk about life. And so, you know, there's a correlation between being a really nice human usually and being successful. Like, the more successful people I meet, the more I'm like, God, he was a bloody good guy. Like, what a nice guy. Like, he actually listened to what I was saying and was in the room. And so those that are kind of chaotic and not growing and they're not in the room. Whereas when you meet someone who's really successful, they're proper listening to you, like they're properly engaging with you. And I think more people should think about that. It's like, be present, be kind. You know, the more senior you get, people are, you know, you're still people. You're not better than other people. And yeah, I think they're the two things I've picked up the most.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because the vision that any of us would have of like corporate CEOs of massive businesses, like, you do tend to think ego and corporate ladder climber, and like there is more negative associations than positive. Whereas, exactly right. Anyone I've met is very high up.
To the top. They don't get to the very top without it.
Oh, you have to have strong interpersonal skills. You have to be able to build really sound and strong relationships. Like, it makes absolute sense that you need to have kindness as part of the fuel that drives you to getting to the top, but it also isn't what our brains necessarily associate with that, which is funny. Final question for you before I let you go. For anyone, I mean, you evidently love what you do, and I've known that before we obviously jumped on a call today. For anyone listening who's in a rut, not loving what they do, feeling inspired by you, wanting to make a change, is there any sort of advice you'd give someone who's like, I just need to do something different, but I don't know what it is?
I think find end of the day, like the whole follow your passion thing. I'm a bit I don't know. I think that's a bit vague and a bit difficult for people. You know, if you're, you know, if you love playing football, like, I'm not saying go and get a job in football, like, but at the end of the day, waking up and not hating your job and genuinely not dreading your day is priceless. You know, that's worth perhaps a pay cut or going back to the start of things. And you know, I've got a mate who works in social work, and he used to run a a business, like a haulage company in the construction sector, and he fucking hated his life. He was like stressed out. He was earning good money, but he hated every minute of it. Now he earns a fraction, but he's like, he loves his life. Like, he genuinely loves it. So like, I think it's about working out what is the most important thing for you. Like, what would contribute to feeling good about your day? Like, wake up and go, well, if not working isn't the option, right? So think, if I had to do something and I had to, how much money do I need to earn? For what sort of lifestyle do I need to live? And what would I want to do? What type of work would I want to do to get myself there? Like, I know I need to have some form of sales in my life. Like, I genuinely love it. Like, I enjoy the deal of creating opportunities with people, and I need that. Like, it doesn't have to be all day, but I really do. I've always enjoyed selling to people, and it's only because I care about what I'm selling. Like, I wouldn't sell like paper. You know, don't try and get me to sell my pen. But you know, as long as you care, as I care about something. But if you think about it, if you care about something, anything, or there's always a job or an industry that will cater for something similar. So my only advice is just look at your life more holistically and think, don't just hone in on, right, well, I like that, so I've got to do that. It's like, how much money do you need? Where do you want to work? Like, what do you want to, like, you want to go to Bali and then come back? And do you want, like, what gets you excited? Too many people, I believe, forget that life is only going to last for so long. And they think that one day they'll be happy because of what they, it's just going to fucking happen one day. It was like, that's bollocks. Like, you've got now, because tomorrow might never come. So what would contribute to, like, I genuinely want to create a life that I'm excited about. Like, I went to Ibiza this weekend. I've got Turkey for the last week of the month, and I will do some work that week. I've got Valencia in August. I've got LA in September. Now, I'm not saying, he's got loads of money, he runs a business, he can afford it. But even if it was just small trips around Europe that I was getting for like £100 flight, that's what makes me excited. Do you understand? Like, that genuinely, packing a bag, going to an airport, nothing beats it for me. I'll spend all my money on it, every fucking penny on it. I'm not, my house, my car, not that bothered. Clothes, I don't spend money on like expensive shit, not bothered. Other people get excitement out of other things, So find what it is, and how do you build it into your life so it's not a once a year thing. It's every other week or every month. You can, like, it's genuinely possible. And wealth isn't about what you earn, it's about what you spend. So remember that, like, you can do anything if you don't spend too much on. If you can be clever with your money, you don't need to earn hundreds of thousands of pounds. Siri loves me today.
Siri's off again.
But yeah, think about your life. Think about what contributes to, like, you going to Bali. I'm sure, like, made you feel energetic and grateful.
Everything about it. Yeah. It's the exact same as you. I would be at the air. You could not keep me away from the airport. I think I had 8 trips over the course of the last 12 weeks. And it's like, I just want, especially after the last 2 years, for people like us who love that, to feel trapped. And for us, it was worse. Our borders were closed. We couldn't go anywhere. Like, I have a lot of time to make up for, and I mostly want to spend that on a plane, contributing, unfortunately, to climate change. But no, I totally agree. And I think it is just about figuring out what the end goal is. Like, what do you want to do day to day in your life? Like, what is not the end goal? That contradicts what you said, but what do you want? What's the end product of how you want to be in life, and then work backwards from there. I've
decided, like, genuinely, I want to work from home most of the time. I've got an office. I want a bit of variety, but I do like being at home. I genuinely enjoy it. I want to travel as often as possible, at least once a quarter. And when I got with my partner and she had 2 kids that I've took on board, that was one of the biggest things. I'm like, can I keep doing that? Well, yeah, this year I've took them to Dubai, I've took them to Florida, we're going to Turkey. Like, I kind of do every other trip is with them, and the others will be with me or my partner. And I think to myself, and I have to be genuinely like passionate about what I'm talking about. If I lose that passion for what I'm talking about, then it won't work. So they're the 3 things for me. Like, where I'm based, who am I with, am I able to do what I need to do to keep me sane, and do I like what I'm talking about? Because if I lose one of them, I won't be me.
Yeah, and if people can start with that, then they can figure out what they want and create the pathway from there, essentially. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. I have so enjoyed this chat, as I know everyone else will as well. So thank you. And I'll be chatting to you on yours very soon as well.
You are joining me on the RAG podcast in a week's time or so, and excited to flip the script and ask you some questions.
I'm excited. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Sinead.
This podcast is sponsored by Lotus People Recruitment. We are an award-winning Sydney-based recruitment agency with a genuine human-first and innovative approach. Lotus People are disrupting the recruitment industry by placing quality and service at the heart of all we do. Recruiting roles across HR, talent, business support, and much more. Head to our website today for more information if you are a job seeker or an employer hiring staff. We're at lotuspeople.com.au.